Okay, part two. So anyone that lives in the South knows it gets super hot. Like, dude, I'm in Texas right now, and we had a heat index like 108 today. Like, holy crap! You kidding me? And I used to live in I, I live in a room with no AC. Um, I just have a fan, bro, and just like I said, natural. We let the windows up for some kind of airflow if and when the wind blows. Anyways, if you ever lived in the South, not too many people have these anymore because most people have like central air, central heating. But older houses, they used to have this thing called a attic fan. So basically, what it was, I guess they put a big ass fan, well, like it sounds, in the attic. And so the concept is it draws in air, but you know, you have to let the windows up in the house in order for the air to get drawn in. So it'll draw in air from outside purposely, and then it goes through like the attic of the house, and then there's like an exit vent up top, and so it dispels the air through a filter or whatever, and it kicks it out. Anyways, it's called an attic fan. I just wanted to kind of explain the concept behind it because it's nighttime now for Max and his grandmother. Like I said, they just ate their dinner. He had gumbo, which sounds good right now. Wish I had some gumbo. Oh, water cornbread. Ooh. And so he has a full meal, and so he's back in his room. Um, and his grandmother doesn't have central air or central heating, or a window unit at that. But they have, like I said, what's called an attic fan. So of course, not just at nighttime, even during the day, you can turn it on. It'll definitely create airflow through a house, But so they have the windows up. He has in his room. He has three windows. He has one by his bed, one on the other side of his wall, and then one on the far wall. And so he has. Well, that's basically he's got them all three open, and so to create airflow, to keep it cool. So he was playing his Nintendo Switch, playing some games, um, watching some old movies on his SD card till he fell asleep. So he hears what he thinks is some kind of like tapping or like some kind of like a little knock sound, and so it wakes him up, and he's like what? And so then it happens again. It's kind of like a little click sound, something like that, or like you know, it's like a little pop sound. And so he's in bed, and you know how it is. You just kind of look around, like you're still sleepy. You're not really sure what's going on. And here's it again, kind of like that. There it goes, you know, like a little just pop sound. And so he looks, and he notices there are like little rock pebbles um, on his floor. And he's like, what the hell? And another one comes in through the window and hits the ground. So he lifts his head up and right in his window, well, not in the window, but let's just say standing, uh, just a few feet from his window, is the girl in white. And she's throwing rocks into his room to get him to wake up. And he immediately like, oh, he's like, oh. So he hides under his covers super quick. And he's like, what the fuck? And again, there's another rock. You know, she doesn't say anything, and he could tell she's in the window staring at him, still with that ominous, glassy mirror, glassed over mirror type of just uncanny stare. And so he's like, "What should I do?" And again, there's another rock. So obviously, she's trying to get his attention, or make some kind of contact. But of course, like his grandmother said, never to acknowledge or talk to the um, people from the woods. But curiosity gets the best of him, and he's kind of like, this is just getting ridiculous. And it's like, what is this? Like, he's thinking his grandmother won't tell him what the, people are or what's going on. It's just a kind of hallucination, um, or what, or these actual people that live in the woods and they're just not supposed to communicate. What is it? So he slowly pulls the cover back, and of course, the girl's right there. Like I said, I'd say about 3 or 4 feet from his window, not the one by his bed, but across from his room, still staring in. But it's just that creepy look that just makes it so awkward, and makes it so that he doesn't want to engage because, like I said, the look in her eyes is just not natural. Not like, it's hard. Like I said, uh, just very unnatural. You know, and so, but he gathers his courage, and so at this point, he knows that she's probably already realized he's acknowledged her because she stopped throwing rocks in his window, and so they're just basically staring at each other right now for about 15, 20 seconds. He's still trying to gather his nerves. So he gets out of his bed, um, walks over to the window. Um, Again, the girl never moves, never blinks. Um, just basically just this wide-eyed stare the whole time. And he just walks to the window, and he's like, um, "Hi," it's like an awkward interaction at first. He's like, like, what are you doing? Like, where are you from? Who are you? So initially, she still doesn't say anything, and she just stares at him. He's like, I saw you the other day, but I didn't want to. I was told not to interact with the people from the woods, and I was told that, you know, to basically avoid, you know, any interaction. I wasn't doing it to be mean. Again, she doesn't say anything, just stares at him. And it's like a full moon. Well, I'm not gonna say full moon. Let's say like wax and gibbous. Wax and gibbous, not quite full moon. But see, it's like, what's the moon phases, man? It's new moon, um, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous. See, waxing gibbous is the one just before full moon. So it's pretty kind of bright outside. That's what I'm saying. That's how he can tell her eyes are really like mirror glossy. Like weird looking because it's moonlight. It's like a partly cloudy night. The moon shining bright. So it's not total darkness. Um, so yeah, let's say waxing gibbous. Because then it's like full moon. Then of course there's waning gibbous. Third quarter, waning crescent, and new moon again. Anyways, um, so we asked her name, no response. Uh, does she live in the woods? No response. Uh, is there anything she wanted? Is there any particular reason she's standing outside his window? No response. So he's kind of just like scratches his head. Um, he actually doesn't even understand English. Maybe she can't even talk, you know. So he sits there for a minute. You know, he's kind of like, you know, you ponder something, you put your hand on your chin, kind of like thinking, how can I communicate with this person? And suddenly she breaks the silence and says, um, do you want to play? And he's like, what? She's like, let's play a game. He's like, a game? She's like, yeah, I want to play a game. And so he's like, maybe, like, what did you have in mind? And she says, hide and seek. Ooh, see where this is going? Now, like I said, of course, like I told you, you know, the woods are all, their house is also surrounded by the woods, like in the back part of their house, you know. They might have like maybe an acre or two of clear land. Like I said, the only cultivated part is the front part of the land, which is, you know, where the garden stuff is. But the back part, you know, the woods kind of spread all the way down the road, the dirt road, then curves, you know, all to the back of their house. And, you know, all out there is very, very dense. So she says hide and seek. He says hide and seek. And so he's like, well, I'm not really supposed to leave the house, especially at nighttime. And my grandmother told me I'm not supposed to go into the woods, um, where she says there's nothing to be afraid of. She's like, it's we could just play for a little while. And so first he asks her name. Excuse me. No response. Uh, so he asks, would it just be them two playing? Um, to which she nods. Um, so he says if he wins hide and seek, will she tell him her name and where she came from? Well, she again nods. So he asks, "Will it be the rules?" So if you ever play hide and seek, man, you know there's like a home base, right? There's always like a home base you can get to. Usually we used to have a big tree or some kind of, you know, pole or something, you know, just any kind of object. If you make it to the object, it's what you call like free base, and you're safe, you know, from being found or touched or whatever you call it. Um, Cause see, in our hide and seek, it's kind of weird. I guess we used to, maybe it's more like tag. So yeah, our hide and seek was weird when I was a kid playing. Like I said, you know, of course, you know, you hide, try not to get found. But if you got found, you could run instead of just being, you know, like, I mean, it's different ways to play hide and seek. So maybe ours was more like, you know, hide, seek, and run. So, so if you get found in hide and seek in this game, um, you are able to run to avoid being, if you're touched or tagged, you know, you're out, of course. But if you make it a free home base, you consider safe and can't be tagged. So even if you're found, if you can make it to the home base, you're still safe. So that's the time. That's the kind of hide and seek, basically, that they're going to play. So Colonel White says if he wins, you know, she'll tell him her name, like I said, where she's from, you know, whatever else needs to know. So at first he's of course hesitant, because I mean, you know, it's still, even though the moon's out bright, it's still like once you get into the woods, he knows it's gonna get very dark because, like I said, the trees are very dense. So you know, any type of light is instantly gonna be blocked out just by the leaves alone. And he's never been in the woods, so it's not like he even knows his way around them, you know. So he thinks about it for a minute, um, and just before he agrees to play, um, he hears his grandmother. She turns on the light in the kitchen, and he looks back, and he's like, "Grandma." And so he looks back to the window, and the girl's gone. The girl in white has just vanished. You know, he's like, what the fuck? Because let's be honest, you would see somebody like, especially like right there next to somebody, you would see them either walk away or, running off if from that distance. She's completely gone, just vanished like Batman. Just oh fuck. And so his grandmother comes in. She says, Max, I thought I heard you in here talking. Is everything okay? And so he confesses. He says, Grandma, I talked to the little girl, and she wanted to play a game. And so immediately his grandma's face just kind of like, oh no, kind of like one of those moments where you tell somebody don't do something, they do it anyway. He's like, oh man, bro, I told you, So that's kind of like the response his grandmother had. And so he said he apologized. Curiosity got the best of him, of course. And so his grandmother said, for the night they're going to shut the windows down. He said if she returns to not open. So the good thing is, the grandmother told him they can't come in the house. They're not able to enter the house. But if he goes out of the house, they'll be able to interact. Or what I mean by interact is they can, basically, um, he can basically be, I'm not gonna say harmed, but physically. So she just tells him to try his best to, if the girl comes back, to ignore her for the night, and then the next morning she's going to give him something that will help him to basically avoid or to become less visible and less prone to, to their presence. And so he finally asked his grandmother, is she like, are they like ghosts? Like, what has happened? Like, he's actually really freaking out right now. He's like, yo, like the girl's just here. She disappeared, just like out of thin air. Like, what is happening? And so the grandmother just promises she will explain everything to him in due time. But for now, he just has to trust what what she says. Don't no interaction. And try not to acknowledge their presence, which he agrees. So he closes all his windows. Um, which of course is gonna make it freaking hot up in that house. Oh well, you know what though? They got windows in the kitchen, so maybe they kept the window kitchens up to keep the airflow. His room though, he closes all the, closes his curtains, the blinds, whatever, to better like pretend like. And so he goes. His grandmother turns off the light, you know, kisses him on the forehead, and just tells him to sleep. So he lays back down, and just before he nods off, he hears kind of like a pebble hit his window.